All righty. Hello, hello. To all of our new listeners, I just wanted to say hello. Hi, I'm Sara Magee. I'm the founder of nVest Wellness, a health coaching company. And we are kicking off, I'm super excited, a series around discussions around health and wellness. It's called Wellness Honestly. And I wanted to welcome our first guest, friend, former coworker, Dr. Bill Bubnis, who is taking time to talk about health and wellness. It's no fluff, no filters, real people, real stories, and hoping we'll have a little bit of fun. So, welcome, Bill.
Hey, thank you, Sarah. I appreciate the invitation.
You're welcome. So, Bill and I go way back. I feel like we started like kindergarten together. No, just kidding. Um, we have known each other for probably at least 20 years, right? A little over 20 years.
Yes, it's been over 25, probably closer to 25.
Okay, so like I said, when we were in kindergarten, Bill has worked in consumer healthcare, product development. He's a leader, a scientist, researcher for over 27 years. He has a family that is super important to him, and I know is a driver of a lot of things that he does. He is recently, huge fan, just published a book in April of this year, The Layman's Guide to Life. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Um, and also, I believe you're a certified bioacoustics practitioner as well as a consultant, having your own business, continuing to work with companies in the consumer healthcare product development space. Did I miss anything else amazing about you?
No, no, I think you summarized it pretty well.
Awesome, awesome. So, we are going to figure this all out together. The goal really is to just have good conversation around health and wellness. And so for you, Bill, I know you and I have spent a lot of time, especially in the last couple of years, sitting across my kitchen table talking about values, health, wellness, career pivots, family life, what's important to us. I am curious for you today, how would you describe wellness for you?
Well, wellness is a rather large, encompassing term that wraps up just about everything that touches our lives. A huge portion of that is good health. In order to enjoy our lives and have overall good wellness, we really need to have good health. And our health is something that I think is incredibly important. It's a very precious gift. It's a precious gift that we've been given, and it's something that should not be taken for granted. And most of us, I would think, all take our health for granted. The thing that we don't realize is if we mess it up and wreck it, it's that good health is something that's very difficult to get back. So in that, it means that, we need to, you know, be happy in our lives and moving in a direction, have happiness and be content. We need to have good nutrition, which means that we need to be putting good fuel into our bodies with our food. We need to have good hydration. I think that, we have to be putting really high quality water into our bodies, and that's something that people don't really think about a whole lot in terms of water and
Mm.
quality water. um, and then I think that we also need to maintain some physical activity in terms of it's not like we have to get out there and run a marathon or something like that. No, we just have to move our body around and keep moving and stay active, and more so being an active participant in your own life is incredibly important. That's what when you bring everything together, especially like with your family and your friends and then your health. You bring all that together, and that makes one big package with a big bow on it that says, "Hey, life is good, and I'm living the life that I want to live the way that I want to live it."
All right. Woo! There are so many great things in there, right? I heard your health is precious. Um, Without it, it's life can be really hard. There's food, there's water. It seems like water's been something that's really important to you, the quality of water,
Hmm.
being your body, right? all of us, about moving your body. You don't have to do something crazy like running marathons, but also family. You mentioned just having the value system and how it's really like all connected, you know?
Yes, and you got to remember that we're all energy,
Mm,
and and we're made up of energy, and everything around us, food, water, everything, that's all energy too, our family, and how we interact with that energy, and is incredibly important. And what we really want to do and we want to strive for is actually be in harmony with that
mm,
as much as possible. And it sounds like a little esoteric and a little woo woo, but it's really not. It's really kind of really simple, basic, fundamental stuff that if you start getting in harmony with the world around you, you're going to be much happier for it, and things are just going to flow so much better and so much easier. And part of that is really, some of it's just happens, and then some of it you actually have to make some decisions and
mm.
and then go forward.
Yeah. So there's times where in our life we have to make decisions. And it sounds like you're pretty wise there, Bill. I am curious, how has that definition changed for you as of, let's go back when we first started working together over 20 years ago. How's that changed? That
How's that changed?
yeah.
Well, I think that's a great question, Sarah, and which has a story that goes along with it. So I guess that brings us to, ooh, story time with Bill.
Bill, okay, just for the listeners, Bill is a great storyteller. He has tons of stories, so I'm excited. All right, all yours.
Okay, yeah, well, you know, when I was younger, it's just like, uh, what did wellness mean to me earlier in life? Well, earlier in life, quite honestly, it didn't mean a whole lot to me. You know, I, you know, I, I was young and invincible, so
Yeah.
that meant, hey, I can burn the candle at both ends, and and I could do that without consequence, and it wasn't going to be a big deal. I never thought anything of it, just like every young person does. And that worked exceptionally well until it didn't. And then one day, you know came along, and all of a sudden, I came down with a rare condition called Guillain-Barré syndrome. And that's, for people who don't know, it's a rare condition where your immune system attacks your nervous system, and it strips the myelin sheaths off the nerves, and it creates, it's a slow oncoming onsetting paralysis.
Mm,
And that was something that was incredibly scary, and I was in deep trouble, deep trouble, and I knew I was in deep trouble. And when I wound up in intensive care for a few weeks, and as they were trying to stop the progression of what was happening. And as that was going on, you know you know I'm sitting here in Richmond, and we didn't have much family around us, so it was just me, my wife, and my son at the time. And we were on our own, and we were trying to figure this out. It was serious. And you know while I was in intensive care, my son came in, and he was just having a ball. He didn't realize anything that was going on, and the gravity of the situation, and how serious it was. And he was just more interested in playing hide and seek with dad in the cupboards of the room. And that was incredibly eye opening, because here it is, you've got this precious little life, this,
mm,
my 2-year-old son. And I was just like, you know I'm like, "Oh my god." I almost orphaned him, and I was just like, "Hey, that's, something that I don't wanna do. I wanna be around," and that changed everything.
mm,
You know, it this moment of clarity just set in, and that's the moment everything changed.
Mm, mm,
everything. That's when I really understood that, um, you know, family was the highest priority. Health was a very close second priority. Then everything else was a very distant third.
mm.
Everything else was
Wow.
a very distant third. And, and with that, um, my priorities changed, and it shifted everything. And I got to tell you that, uh, in there, it wasn't always an easy shift. It was an easy decision, but the shift wasn't easy, because there were, barriers that were out there. And the barriers were not only, recovering from that condition, which was slow, but the mental barriers that came with it. Because, what I realized, there were certain times in my life that I began to see very more clearly, and I could see that, I was societally and socially conditioned for certain things. I need to, you go out and you work and we keep working and working and working and working. And you know, nobody ever talked about the family stuff, and we just got to support the family and da 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 da. And and they missed a few things.
Mm,
And getting over some of that social conditioning was not the easiest thing in the world to do.
yeah.
So,
Wow. So thank you for sharing that with everybody who's going to listen. I mean, I heard several times again how precious life and health is, and the one day, right? The one day that people don't expect a thing to pop up, and not everybody has a thing pop up. You had something major happen in your life that gave you a moment of clarity and shifted your entire world, it sounds like. And you now were processing things differently, you were viewing things differently, you were valuing things differently, and you were starting to have a mindset shift, it sounds like,
hmm,
with
most definitely.
everything that you thought you knew or were how you were behaving or living your life needed to change.
Yes,
It
that
needed
is
to be changed.
absolutely certain. Absolutely certain.
And
Because
oh no, go ahead.
now, uh, what I was going to say was is that, you know when you have that clarity,
Mhm.
it y- you know what needs to be done,
Mm.
and you set out. So really,
Yeah,
just start it with, okay, hey, I have to make some decisions, and then I'm going to have to follow through on those decisions. And so I made the decision that, hey, family and her health was first. Okay, boom.
yeah,
That decision was clear, because I was like, I this is not who I want. Working all the time and being a hamster on a hamster wheel was not who I was, and it's not who I wanted to be.
yeah,
And it just wasn't as important to me as spending time with my family, and spending as much time with them as possible, and keeping my health in order as best as possible. And what I realized is that, uh, I needed a job more than I needed a career. Because
yeah,
that's the socialization aspect I was talking about. It's because everyone's like, we got to get out there. We're going to be on the hamster wheel. We got to be able to support the family and blah 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 blah. Because the reality of the matter is look, um, in order to survive in the world and live life, we need to go out and make some money in order to do that.
yeah,
That's what's going to make everything go. So, but what I realized is that I needed more of a job than I needed a career. I've seen people, and I know we know people, Sarah, who have been very career oriented.
mm,
And at least from my perception, is that they were so career oriented that they missed out on their kids growing up and a lot of other things, a lot of family stuff. And I never really kind of understood that. and all. So
Yeah.
once I realized that I needed more of a job than a career, that kind of shifted things in the work world for me, uh, as a professional, and then started the quest for work life balance.
The
Okay.
quest.
Everyone seems, I know that work-life balance is kind of like a buzzword of terms there, and and everyone likes to talk about work-life balance, it all sounds great, but it's much harder and it's much more difficult in reality than anybody really thinks or knows. And it's and
Yeah.
I and what I came to understand was is that everybody struggles with it, but nobody wants to talk about it.
Ah,
Nobody wants to
we're
talk.
talking about it. We're talking about
Yeah, we're talking about it
And you've
here.
been talking about it in your book too. Um, you know what I think really resonated with what you said is you knew what you needed to do, right? That gut intuition, that gut instinct, we all have it. We all have that inside of our soul, inside of our bodies that is there, and something or space, time, the one day, an illness, something will usually force us to listen to that internal voice. And it sounds like that was huge for you, and it sent you on your quest to reevaluate what you wanted your health and wellness to look like. And I mean, I see it a lot in health coaching, and that's the foundation of everybody is an expert in their own life, and it is intrinsically motivating, right? When we find this thing inside of us that is our value system, is our priority, is what we want out of our health and what we want out of our life. And so, you know what, society sometimes is like they build these walls. There's this paradigm. You're supposed to work these hours. We did it. You and I did it
Hmm.
for weeks at a time, for hours and hours and holidays. And there were some amazing gifts in that. But there were also some things that showed us that there's, another way.
Yeah. But everyone should take away the message and be assured that there is such a thing as like work-life balance, and you can achieve it, and all. And
There you go. You heard it
it
from Dr. Bubnis, right? There.
yeah,
Expert
yeah,
advice.
because I know that during the years, especially in the professional world, um, you know, there were a lot of decisions that were made, and another decision that got made along the way was when my son started playing competitive baseball, and I was just like, I'm gonna be a dad. Okay, I gotta get him to baseball practice and all this other stuff. So I was just like, I made that decision, and I was just like, I gotta leave at 4 o'clock every day. And
Yeah.
quite honestly, yeah, at the outset of that, I was terrified because I was just like, I'm going to leave at 4 o'clock every day. And I was just like, I don't know how the company's going to respond to this. I don't think, because you're always left with the perception that you're like, you should be working.
Yeah.
And, it's just like, not going to, I'm not sure they're going to like this too well. And like for like the first 6 months, I felt like every pair of eyes in the building were watching me walk out to my car at 4 o'clock, you know?
We were all watching you.
And,
We were
and
all watching you and judging you.
exactly.
I'm just kidding.
And then it took 6 months for me to kind of get over that, where I was just like, I just don't care anymore. I got to go do what I got to do.
Okay.
And so that was fine. And but it the sense of struggle of work
Mhm.
life balance never left, even after that 6 months, and never left. And it
Yeah.
was, and I found it to be very stressful.
Mm.
And really the turning point for that for me, where it all righted itself, was when I got sent off to the Center for Creative Leadership. And Sarah, as you know, um, that's where they used to describe it as, that's where they sent you to be fixed. Okay. And and I'm not so sure I could be fixed, but that's okay. But
You
but
don't need
but
fixing.
but with that, it was a very eye-opening because we had to have those 360-degree feedback reviews.
Mhm,
And when I was out at the Center for Creative Leadership, um, what happened was is that the people who were running the seminar or the training course there at the center approached me on the first day, and they were talking to me about work-life balance, and they were asking me all these questions and everything, and I was just like, why are you all asking me this? Because this is the single thing that I'm struggling, the biggest thing that I'm struggling with, and it is incredibly stressful. I'm like, why are you asking me? Well, you're not talking to anybody else about this. Why are you asking me? And then they seem to indicate to me that it was just like, well, based on all the feedback that we got on you, is that you were like in the all-time high percentage categories of work life balance. So you seem to have it figured out, and we want to know what you're doing. And I was just like, oh. I was just like, and I was stunned. I was stunned by that. But the reality is that that's the moment that I began to understand when especially when I started reading the feedback, was is
mhm,
that everybody seemed to be viewing me as the role model for work life balance.
mhm,
And it was they all thought that I had it figured out. And, little did they know that I was struggling with it. And that when I saw all that, and I was just like, oh my god. And
yeah.
it may not that I had it all figured out. That's when it all became okay. And
Mhm,
I was just like, like, I don't have to struggle with this anymore. I'm probably where I'm supposed to be, and I've kind of found it. Other people are
mhm,
seeing it, and I couldn't see it, but now I could. And it was just like, oh, cool. So, that had a huge effect on me because all of a sudden now it was just like, I was so much happier. I was just like, hey, things, the world righted itself. I'm so much happier. I f I felt like I could, I was in control, and that I'm living the life that I want, and it's okay to live the life that I wanna live and how I wanna live it. And,
yeah.
and I can, and I had that license to go forward, and
Mhm,
that's where the balance fell into place. And I was just like, okay, yeah, I can balance both these things, and I can have both and
yeah.
do both equally well.
Yeah, it sounds like you spent a lot of time thinking about what balance meant for you. As you mentioned, work life balance means something different for everybody.
Mhm.
And you went through a phase where you had to figure out what that meant for you, what you were experimenting, right? You're like, I'm gonna leave at 4 o'clock. I'm gonna, make sure I go to these practices. I'm gonna reprioritize. Sounds like you're reprioritizing. But you know what? You mentioned a couple times the word stress. It sounds like there was a lot of mental chatter or self-talk around these reprioritizations, and it was stressful. And I think that's the thing is like it's stressful, and people, you were stressed and you're getting all this amazing feedback. So everybody else thought everything's amazing. It sounded like, right, with Bill, but yet you had this internal conflict, it sounds like.
Mhm.
But working
Exactly.
through that, it also was, I heard you let go. You're like, I'm letting go. I'm
Yes.
letting go of the control, right? And I saw it, you're like, I'm letting go. And when we let go, it's so hard. It's easier said than done, right? Like there's
Yes.
so many things I need to let go of. Um, but that's it really, really resonated how impactful and like huge aha moment in your life, which makes me going to shift this conversation because we could talk a lot about this. Um, to so much, you had so much more time in your career. You're similar to me. You made a career pivot, right? Leaving the industry. And, all of these stories that you have and these lessons and these, shifts you put into a book. And I haven't read it all. I've read a lot of it and I flip through it all the time. I will tell you, it's actually amazing. It's funny, it is practical. There's tips in there. I love all of the quotes or quotes from musicians, stoics, characters, right? There are all kinds of great things. I'm wondering if you'll just tell me a little bit about the inspiration, what you wanted to accomplish with the book, and yeah, just a little bit about that whole process.
Oh, well, that whole process.
Because wait, I'm going to jump in because I remember and have to say how extremely proud I am of you because you and I sat and we talked about this for a really long time. And people, I know a million people say, I want to write a book, I want to write a book, I want to write a book. And you wrote a book.
Yeah, I had wanted to do it for a long time. And, because there were just things that I encountered in my life and that, I wish somebody would have told me.
Mm,
And, and hindsight's always 2020. And, as as I got older and I have two beautiful kids and a wonderful wife. I can't, you know, tell you how excited I am about that. But, for the kids, as I was getting older, I was just like, I wanted to leave something behind for them so that because what I knew was is that just like everyone else who's young, and they're going through life and everything, and they're going to run into some adversity and they're going to run into some difficult times. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to leave a guide behind so that when they find themselves in some dark times, that maybe it'll function as a ray of light for them to lead them forward. And really, what the book focused around was is really, you know, then one of the most important things you need to do is that you need to get to know yourself and know who you are, exactly who you are. And then, to be okay with it. You have to be okay with it. And once you know who you are, that opens the door in that process to determine what it is that you really value. Okay. And once you understand what you value in life, then what comes out of that is you learn and can figure out what it is that you really need.
mhm.
Because a lot of times what you want and what you need are two entirely different things.
Yep.
And once you figure out what you need, that's the key piece. Because that once you know what you need, then you can take control of your life and then you can live it as you want to live it.
Mhm.
And you can have it. You can have it all because you're living life according to your values and going out and finding what it is that you need. Because what you need is what's going to help you to be happy. And the reality of the matter is that and people have to understand is that uh, happiness is not it cannot be given to you by someone else. That responsibility is yours and yours alone, and you have to do that and do that for yourself. And if you have no idea what you need and what you value, then you're going to struggle to find that happiness. And so that's what I set out to do with the book was to try to take my experiences and lay out a guide for my kids or any person or any young person to take that journey and to figure out who they are, what they value, and what they need so that they can live the life that they deserve and they want.
Excellent, excellent. Well, super grateful that you put all of that experience and I know your kids will treasure it if they haven't yet when they get older. The great thing is you can pick it up and just flip to any chapter and actually get something useful out of it. So it is really an amazing book. And I'll put a link in the description. So if people want to go to Amazon and buy it or check it out, they can do that as well. Um, like looking back at, just kind of wellness, kind of how we started the conversation around nutrition and in movement and mindset and food. I'm curious what has surprised you between something that you thought you knew and something that you knew today that you had to like let go of that maybe you were
Oh,
doing before and you thought it was the right thing and you're like, I'm letting go of this.
oh God. There's so much. Um, as time has gone on, I started educating myself more and more. And what I began to find was is that not everything was what it seemed, and not everything was what I thought it was.
Okay.
Especially from a health standpoint. And as I started learning about alternative technologies and methods for health, and
Mm,
that you can get there in a lot of different ways. I started learning about the body and frequency and how they're interrelated, and which led me to like better nutrition, vitamins and supplements and things what they do, and how we can take this natural approach. And I was beginning to understand that you know our bodies are um, an amazingly perfect design,
mm,
and the way that it functions is just mind-boggling. It just blows. It's so mind-blowing. It's not even fun. I can't. And there's just so much of it that I just don't understand. And it's just like I look at. I just keep looking and trying to educate myself, and it's just like showing, like shedding a little bit more light in a couple more areas and things like that, that that I never knew before. And it's this whole continuing education
yeah.
of things, and it really challenged um, my thought of what I thought I knew in the current paradigms, um, and how health is approached, especially from the allopathic medicine perspective, and that there's that's not what it all seems to be, and that this whole naturopathic approach that is has a lot of value, and when you really look into it, it makes a lot of logical sense, and in order to help that your body to function the way it's supposed to. And
Yeah.
it's fascinating stuff. And so I had to really let go of some of the old truths
Mm,
to clear room out so that I can open my mind, and and for new things to come in. And really, so it was kind of like an exercise in critical thinking,
mhm.
and being willing to look at things and ask the hard questions, and really start looking into it, and finding answers. And it was really surprising as to some of the answers that I was finding. And it's just fascinating stuff, absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, you're the journey of being curious and constantly questioning and evolving and self-developing. It's what you do naturally, right? You're a researcher and but being willing to question some of those things that you thought were true in the past, right? And it's hard. And I think that's one of the things that's like such a huge passion for me and helping other people is there's so much noise out there and there's so much information on medications, supplements, diet plans, strength training plans, mindset, frameworks, process, systems, getting down to the like understanding your own body and also being curious enough to go find reputable sources to have conversations with people that are experts in certain areas and be able to make some of those decisions for yourself,
Hmm.
because there's a lot out there and Being curious about it is a great way to approach and constantly learner. We're all like learners, we're students of life, right? And it's a big area, and it's people don't have a lot of time to delve into a lot of these things like some people do. So being able to kind of clear out some of that noise hopefully is going to get easier for everyone when it comes to health and wellness.
Yeah. Discernment is critical
Yeah.
because there's more information out there than you can ever imagine. And there's more disinformation out there as well. And you just can't accept anything that somebody in a white lab coat,
Yeah.
says because they said so in the experiment or whatever. It's just um, that it the lab code doesn't signify authority. You have to actually take the time and you have to read your own package insert. You need to understand what it is
Yeah.
that you're doing, not only from consumer health products to prescription drugs, but also we need to understand even in our own food and water,
Yeah.
what's in it and what kind of an impact it can have. And you really need to start, to take a look at it, and you need to think critically about it, and and ask the hard questions of what if is this does this does this make sense, and bring information from different places and see what resonates with you. You just can't take things at face value because somebody said so.
Yeah.
That's not gonna get you on a fast track to anywhere.
Sounds like you're saying own your own health, right?
Yeah,
Critical think and talk to people, right? And
exactly.
do the background information. Um, so it's like time's coming to a close. I am curious how you're currently today's time investing in yourself and investing in your health and wellness.
Currently, we talked about education, and I continue to educate myself because I think it's just a fascinating space, and I want to continue to learn because and I love talking about this stuff with different people because I want to share the knowledge that I'm learning. Uh, so that's probably the biggest thing. Um, and I like trying out some new things to see if they actually are helpful.
Mhm.
Uh, you
Good old
know,
experimentation.
yeah, yeah. Of course, I have to address the same issue that many other people have to address, which is the age that comes with weight, and all. And then, you know, continue to take a look at these new technologies and remain an active participant in my own life. That's really what it comes down to. And there's just like I said, there's so many fascinating things out there. Um, in order to help you to be as healthy as possible. I'm almost 60 years old, and I take no prescription medications at all, and and I'm very proud of that. As I keep trying to find you know natural ways of helping my body to be the best it can be.
Yeah, helping your body be the best it can be. You're experimenting, you're self-learning, and it sounds like you're thriving as well. Um, so I wonder what 80-year-old Bill Bubnis, if he were to write a thank you letter to you, what would 80-year-old Bill Bubnis be thankful for that you're doing?
Just for the record, I'm not 80.
No, when
Uh,
you're 80. So when you're
I
80,
know,
you're
I
not
know.
80. Bill's not 80, everybody. He said he's 60. He looks like he's 40.
uh,
You're 80 and you're looking back. What are you going to be so thankful for the younger Bill and this health journey?
I think I'll be thankful for the fact that um, I got sick earlier on in life, and that it it changed my perspective on things and it set me on the right course. It I'll also be thankful that it took me a while to get to some places, but I got there. And and when I got there, I wasn't afraid to ask the hard question. I wasn't afraid to have the conversations. I
Mm,
wasn't afraid to step forward on a lot of things and and voice what I felt was right, um, in order to take in order to take control of my own health and my own wellness and well-being, um, and then you know try to share that with as many people as I can. And some it's difficult. There's some people are open to it, other people aren't. So you just got to do the best you can to meet people where they're at
yes.
and go from there. And I think I'd also be thankful that you know I come to understand that nothing is as it seems, and that once I understood that and what that really meant, that kind of took the uh, that allowed me to break the chains and start looking into a lot of different things that led me into a lot of different areas, new areas of with an open mind.
Wow. Yeah. That 80-year-old Bill is so thankful. I am so grateful that you took this time to sit down with me. And even though we talk all the time, I learn something every time that I talk to you. And I'm always so honored that you're open and that you share. And you give me so much like great advice and reminders as well. So thanks for putting it in a book. Your kids are gonna, really thrive using that throughout their life. And that's really, I mean, are there any questions that you have for me before we kind of wrap up our first video series?
No, Sarah, I think that we covered quite a lot here, and I think one thing that we talked about, and I think you talk about this a lot too, that I want to bring forth to everyone is that uh, we have moved, and we've spent so much time talking about this. We've moved in a direction of self-reliance,
Hmm.
and I think that that's important. And I'm thankful that you know we have been connected for such a long time because we are on we're on similar frequency levels, and we see things very similarly. And you've given me an outlet in order to go and talk about things and say, what do you think about this, and all, and because you see things that I haven't, and brought them to me, and it's just like, wow, that's really cool stuff, and all. So, you know, keep doing what you're doing, and because you are on the right track.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you having you by my side. I think it was um our former boss slash coworker Frank, which I'm gonna have him on here by the way. He used to say like go do cool stuff with cool people, right? Like there's nothing better in life than doing cool stuff with cool people. All right, so that's a wrap. So wellness, honestly, where we had great conversation, real people, and really just pulling the layers back on wellness. So thank you, and I appreciate your time.